in my
iKKO as an IEM brand like to do things their own way. They don't flood the market with release after release, and their releases do tend to shun the Harman 2019 IE target, which has typified pretty much every budget release throughout the course of 2023. Instead, they've developed their raw, energetic, bass-boosted house sound, which we've seen across a number of their releases over the years, including one which achieved legendary status in the audio community, the OH10. iKKO decided in 2023 to bring the OH10 up to date with two sibling versions, the OH10S and the model that we're taking a closer look at today, the OH300. The OH300 have been in the Boxing Day sales in 2023. They've dropped the price on the iKKO site to just £32. That's a saving of around £17, so quite a sizable saving on the MSRP. The OH300 retains that energetic, bassy sound of the original OH10, this time using a single 10mm LCP dynamic driver, but they've also brought the aesthetics up to date with an intriguing photochromic faceplate, which iKKO hope will set this release apart from the hundreds of other sub $50 IEMs with a single dynamic driver that have been released throughout 2023. Unlike some of their contemporaries like EPZ and SimGo, iKKO haven't leaned heavily on theming here with a simplistic, straightforward unboxing experience. They aren't packed with accessories, there's no carry case, and the selection of tips is quite limited too. Although the presentation of the tips is quite nice, they're held in this kind of foam insert inside the box, and you're getting a mixture of small, medium and large in both narrow bore and wide bore. The quality of the tips is quite good as well, actually, for stock tips, although I found they optimized isolation more than comfort. The high purity oxygen free copper cable is also pretty decent quality. It is unfortunately lacking a chin slider as with previous iKKO releases, although it's much more robust than the likes of the cable I got with the 7Hz02 for example. It's 2-pin 0.78mm QDC connectors with red marking right and blue marking left. The ear hooks are reinforced by a long sleeve, and whilst it does pull them tight, I'd probably rather have this than them coming loose when you're out and about. The lack of accessories isn't really a problem to me, but if you're a newbie to the hobby and you don't have lots of tips or carry cases or pouches or anything like that, then you might be a little bit disappointed with what's on offer here. However, what they lack in accessories, the OH300 more than make up for with style. Their photochromic glass faceplates are designed to safeguard the circuitry components from ultraviolet damage in sunlight. This has the added bonus of presenting a blue hue in strong light, and whilst it certainly differentiates it from other IEMs, the effect probably isn't quite as startling in the flesh. Nevertheless, the shells are very well designed with good build quality and QC. Looking away from the plate, the rest of the shell is predominantly plastic, but don't let that put you off. The OH300 are a beefy, robust IEM with a custom feel to the inside. The semi-transparent smoked look to the plastic enables the internals to be seen when you look closely, and this marries up quite well with the photochromic design on the faceplate. They're a relatively heavy IEM weighing in at just over 5 grams, and they're also a deep insertion design with a pretty long nozzle, bringing the overall width to just over 25mm. It's an attractive overall design that is certainly eye-catching. The OH300 do feel much higher quality in terms of their craftsmanship than many of their competitors at this price. The only minor disappointment for me is that they are slightly bulky and a little bit heavy. Depending on your ear anatomy, this may or may not be a problem, but for my slightly shallow ear canals, this could mean them fitting a little awkwardly. My ear anatomy plus the depth of 25.5mm, which is definitely on the bulky side for an IEM, mean that the OH300 does stick out of my ears quite a bit. I could still use the OH300 for a few hours at a time without feeling any discomfort, and there was certainly very good isolation, but after that few hours was up, I would feel that I would need to give my ears a little bit of a rest. The trend with many IEMs throughout 2023 has been to build less and make them slightly smaller, and this kind of design has really suited me. As I said though, everyone's ear is different, and whilst they aren't perhaps the ideal fit for me, they were still reasonably comfort and stable, and perhaps more so than the images suggest in this video. In terms of the audio and sound signature, this is the first non-Harman set that I've listened to in a while, so there was a period of readjustment, realigning my ears to a sound that isn't Harman, and after that period of readjustment, I was able to really enjoy what the OH300 are. A fun, warm, bouncy V-shape that excel particularly with non-complex, energetic genres like pop, hip-hop, R&B, and EDM, where the relaxed treble can combine with polite upper mids and an enriched low end, offering good detail without fatigue. A broad 6 dB lift spanning 80 Hz up to 500 Hz injects plenty of warmth and body. The slow percent brings acoustic instruments forward with woody resonance and injects electronic genres with atmospheric depth. The enlarged bass response remains tight and punchy. It's a richer, colourful bass rather than more physical rumble. It's punchy and energetic, and whilst this isn't a bass headset, if you like a richer, slightly thicker tone, then the OH300 should have enough in the locker for you. Though the mid-range of the OH300 adopts a politer stance, the sound retains sharpness and clarity, at least when the volume is a little higher. While male vocals shine around 300 Hz, the notable 3 dB dip at 800 Hz can sometimes pull some female vocals and guitars back into the mix. As a result, can sometimes feel there's a lack of clarity or intimacy, particularly at lower volumes. But on the flip side, you don't get that kind of fatiguing element that is prominent with the likes of the EW200 and other Harman diffuse field sets. Overall, the mid-contour sounds more smooth than articulate, with atmospheric instruments like strings focusing on tone rather than texture. Vocals maintain intelligibility, if not constant presence, and the laid-back upper mids contribute to the OH300's relative versatility. Critical listeners may look for more mid-range intensity, and from my perspective, I do prefer the kind of genres that suits, such as melodic techno, progressive house and vocal jazz. But moving to more energetic genres, I found that I really enjoyed the OH300, perhaps much more than I thought I would. Looking at the trebles, the extension is rolled off a little bit here, counterbalancing those other frequencies nicely to set the tone. A relaxed downward slope prevents vocal sizzle or cymbal sting in exchange for fatigue-free listening. There's no hardness or coarseness present, rather a graceful triangle decay delivering adequate air and sparkle without fatigue. There's definitely enough detail to satisfy non-critical listening, and whilst the OH300 sound better when enjoying the heart of the music rather than analysing any last detail, that isn't to say that the sound is blurred or incoherent. Imaging is accurate with a hint of precision. Placement is actually really good for a sub $50 set. With its natural staging and tonality, it's unquestionable that iKKO have put their years of audio acoustic experience into the tuning, eking out very strong performance from such a simple driver arrangement. So how does it compare to similarly priced buds? Taking a look at the currently very popular with YouTube reviewers Clinical 02 from 7 Hz. You can pick these up for around £7 less than the OH300 here in the UK, but personally I would skip it because the bass is just a little bit too boomy and a bit pillowy, and the trebles are nowhere near as clean. The EPZ Q5, which I reviewed on this channel not that long ago, is a Harman diffuse field set which has impressed me. It brings a slightly more expansive soundstage and similarly impressive imaging, and an even cleaner, more cohesive sound to instruments and vocals, which suits the likes of melodic techno and vocal jazz, but performs less well on rock and more simplistic arrangements, where the more robust, fuller, thicker sound of the OH300 shine. I go into more detail in my text review over on HeadFi, the link is in the description. So what do I think of the OH300 overall? Well, I was really pleasantly surprised, considering this sound signature perhaps isn't something I would normally go for. Although perhaps I shouldn't have been too surprised. The original OH10 were a guilty pleasure for me. The type of music I listened to back then was slightly different to what I listen to now. But the OH300 took me back to those days, listening to some of the stuff that I used to play when I DJ'd, and really getting plenty of enjoyment out of reminiscing. The photochromic effect is perhaps a little bit more gimmick than tangible benefit, but it makes for an attractive, quite well fitting, although slightly bulky for me, IEM that offers great isolation and is relatively straightforward to drive. The build quality and craftsmanship are high despite it being predominantly plastic, and whilst the list of accessories may not be ideal for beginners, for those of us who've been in the game a while, it's more than adequate. The OH300 are giving you great bang for buck, especially at that reduced £32 price. And if you like your sound signature fuller, richer and more dynamic, and you're not enamoured with this Harman style tuning that has engulfed the IEM world, particularly in this price bracket, then you can definitely do a lot worse. Do you own the iKKO OH300? If so, I'd love to hear from you in the comments section below. Do please continue to engage, give the video a like if you found it useful, help me out with that YouTube algorithm, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. For now, it's ReganCipher signing off.